Woohoo! We made it.
We are here.
We are here. Hello, everybody. We are live. I'm just going to check one more thing to make sure we are here. Welcome to one more thing. Okay, yes, we're there. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to What the Health Show with Hollie O'Brien and Matt O'Brien. I just want to say hi really quick. If you're tuning in, say hello. Let me know where you're tuning in from. And the comments are going to be a little bit delayed. So if you ask a question, don't worry. We will make sure we answer your questions because that's what we are here for. Welcome to What the Health Show. Hold on, let me get rid of this tracker banner thing. Let's see. Is our first time going live with our new platform with Facebook changing. So thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to wait a few more minutes before we get started because I know it's going to take a couple minutes for people to hop in. So while we wait, say hello, where you're tuning in from, and answer this one question. Have you ever said, man, I wish I slept better? Or, gosh, I just always wake up tired. Or, it takes forever to fall asleep. If you have ever said any of those statements or roundabout, I want you to put sleep in the chat because today in the What the Health Show, we are talking all about sleep and how important it is for your health, longevity, and cognitive function. Your brain. So if you ever have foggy brain, you've got ADD, ADHD, or you're just like, I don't know, mom brain, and you maybe have kids or don't have kids, or dad brain. That's what we're here talking about, and that's how we're going to help you. So I am Hollie O'Brien. I am your host for today. I have a special guest over here, Mr. Matt O'Brien. He is the author of The Magic Pill. He is also graduated from the Air Force Academy. He got his Bachelor of Science in Biology. He's had 27 years as he's been a professional in the health and fitness industry for 27 years. I know. He only looks like he's 25. And he's been in the industry for longer than he's been alive. So he's been a health and fitness coach helping thousands of people with this very topic we're talking about today. He's also the owner of Triumph Fitness and Nutrition in Largo, Florida, with his wife, Hollie O'Brien. I work in the beauty industry and nutrition. I've been a professional makeup artist for 20 years in television. So we have joined forces. I'll say collided. We've joined forces, collided sometimes, and we are working together with each other to help bring more information to you guys so you can not only absorb the knowledge, but go into action of your everyday life and actually change your life. So Mr. O'Brien, thank you for setting this up, doing all the research that you've done, and just for being here with us because you are a plethora of knowledge. People pay you thousands and thousands of dollars just to have consultations with them. And you, the people listening right now, are getting him tonight. Whether it's East Coast, West Coast, whatever time it is, he's going to share his knowledge with you. So Mr. O'Brien, could you say hello to everybody?
Yes, I'd like to thank Hollie for that wonderful introduction. And hopefully people will jump on, tune in, tell us where you're shouting out from. Let us know, especially if you have any comments or questions on the topic that we're going to cover. And I just want to give a brief intro, a little teaser of what we're going to cover. I'm going to let Hollie ask the questions. And I just gave her a little bit of a teaser. But today, there's only two massive, big, huge, game-changing levers or switches that we have in life that will absolutely, undeniably affect the quality and the quantity of our life. So our lifespan and our health span. One of those, as you could probably guess, is exercise. And that's one thing that we all need to do more of and take more seriously as something that we can control. But the other one's a little bit easier for most people if you take ownership and you have awareness, and that is sleep. It's free. And today here's their teaser. We're going to talk about sleep, how it affects appetite, sleep and weight loss, sleep and memory and cognitive function, sleep and cortisol, sex hormones, and the desire to be intimate,
Woo!
sleep and alcohol, that may be appropriate for some people, and this one's Holly's going to be excited.
Ooh.
Sleep and marriage and relationships, and what we're going to call a sleep divorce may be something that should be in the cards for some of you. So, sleep. This is a quote by Peter Attia. I consider him a mentor. He's the author of the best book on health. It just came out March of 23. Outlive the Science of and Art of Longevity. He's a practicing functional health doctor, and he also practices what he preaches. And this is a quote I stole from him. Sleep increases your insurance for a longer life. We buy insurance for our car in case we get in an accident. We buy insurance for our home in case it burns up in a fire or goes away in a hurricane or a flood. Sleep is our insurance for a longer life. And we'll wrap up with tips for how to get better sleep and sleep supplements that actually work. And I'm not talking about melatonin. Melatonin might not be the best supplement for your sleep. So we're going to talk about all those things. Hopefully that tickled some curiosity in my wife, Holly, who will kind of be driving the discussion. But you and your comments can also drive the topics that we talk about. So that's a little bit of brief intro of what we're going to cover. And we'll turn it over to you, my beautiful host.
Thank you, my dear. So the first thing I want to ask you guys, what questions do you have around sleep? Go ahead and pop them in the chat here, because as we go through this, I've got my phone on standby. I can check the questions here so we can talk about really, what do you want to know about sleep? A lot of times we think, oh, well, at least I was like this. You can raise your hand if you're like this too. Well, yeah, I get enough sleep. It's fine. Meaning I don't think I wake up throughout the night. I don't remember my dreams, and I definitely wake up tired. If this is you, I want you to, again, put sleep in the chat, because you may not be getting as much sleep as you think you are. So if you're not tracking your sleep, I would suggest to track your sleep. I'm saying this to myself because Matt has been tracking his sleep for how long?
For about 3 years now.
What have you noticed with your sleep patterns? Has it been really great? Has it been like, oh, I'm great at sleeping? I mean, you're healthy. You take care of yourself. You exercise, right? You do all the right things. Are you still getting the right type of sleep? Not today, but before you started taking these extra steps to sleep.
Well, as I studied all things in the health and longevity realm, I'm 55. My wife is much younger than me, and we have 2 young kids, 13 and 10. So longevity and mortality are near and dear to my heart. So as a health coach, not just for my clients, but equally importantly for myself, I've studied like what are the levers that I can manipulate to create that insurance that I have that longest life, and not just how long I live, but the quality of life during that time. That's what health span is. And sleep, like I said, exercise is the big one. Sleep is the other big one. And here's the deal. When I talk about ownership, and that's going to be a recurring theme, so you're going to get tired of me saying it, but you got to take ownership for your health. You can't trust doctors. You can't trust the news. You can't trust social media influencers. You can't trust the food industry, and you can't trust the drug industry. They're all in it to win it for themselves. So you have to take ownership for your own health. And I practice what I preach. So I'm taking ownership that I acknowledge the biggest thing I need to work on in the whole realm of my own personal health is sleep. Because we own several businesses and we're in just grinding, I know quantity, the amount of sleep I get isn't, granted, I'm taking ownership. I could definitely change some things and sacrifice some other things to increase the quantity. But I can say over the last 3 years, I've hacked the crap out of my sleep so that the quality of the sleep I get in 6 hours is as good as possible. And by tracking it through one of the tracking devices we can jump into, but Fitbit, Oura Ring, Whoop Band, Apple Watch, those are kind of the big 4. but I use a Fitbit, and more recently, another device I'll talk about when we talk about bed partners and sleep divorce. So just understand that by tracking my sleep, what gets measured gets managed, and by having something, I'm big, huge for all my clients. I can't force them to, but I highly encourage them to track their sleep. So by doing that and hacking my sleep, I've gotten pretty good sleep scores in not enough time. So I know I need to work on the quantity piece, but on the quality side, I can share with you, if you're in the same boat, we're going to talk about things that you can do. If you're one of those people that has nighttime anxiety, you can fall asleep easy, but you wake up at 3 a.m. You can't fall back asleep. If you can't fall asleep, your mind's just racing. Those are kind of the two categories I find with my clients, fall in one of those two categories. Or you have no trouble sleeping, but you have sleep distractions or sleep interrupters sleeping next to you or in the bed with you, aka dogs.
I was going to say one of these. Oh,
yeah,
puppy.
one of those little guys.
One of these.
What up, pumpkin?
Pumpkin. Yeah. You know what? You actually answered a couple of the questions. So this is great. We had some people ask, they said, how much sleep does your age depend on how much sleep you need? How do you track your sleep? You went over that. And how much sleep do you need? Like, what is enough? So you answered a couple of those. It's not necessarily the quantity, because if you're laying in bed and you're not getting a deep REM sleep, then it doesn't matter the quantity as much as the actual quality. So that's why we talk about tracking your sleep, because then you can take your score to someone like a professional like Matt or someone that's a sleep specialist, and they'll say, oh, you're not getting enough sleep to repair your body and your brain.
Right. I would, just so everybody knows, if you're a research junkie, my job in life, my motivation, my passion is incessant learning. And how can I digest something like this book or some of the podcasts I listen to? Matthew Walker, PhD, who runs the Sleep Institute at Cal Berkeley and is now considered the world's leading expert on sleep. And if we want, in the comments later, we can post the link to his amazing TED Talk that really summarized everything that we're going to talk about. But sleep, like, he's on a mission to really change our perspective of sleep. So a lot of what I'm saying, I'm just regurgitating what this world's leading expert is justifying, promoting, and validating through research is important. And he clearly says we need to make a sleep opportunity of 8 hours a night. So an opportunity is you carve out 8 hours of your day where you can be in bed. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to sleep for all those 8 hours, and that's where the quality that Hollie's talking about comes in. And that's where I'm taking ownership. I'm not giving myself the 8 hour opportunity. I'm giving myself a 6, 5, 6.5 hour opportunity. And it's easy to justify, I'll make it up on the weekends. But they've proven in studies you cannot, like, borrow now and pay later. You cannot make up sleep debt. So the consistency of your sleep practice will literally affect not just the quality of your life now, but also the quantity of life. It can take 5 to 7 years off your life. And we can get into those details of a nursing study. Shift workers, they've determined people that have constantly different changing sleep schedules, literally have 5 to 7 years less life expectancy. So sleep.
We have shift workers in here. I want you to say shift work, because we need to help you here. This is huge. So let's go ahead and just dive in. I am super curious, just because I hear the word appetite and food and my mouth starts watering. So foodies, listen up. Here's the deal. How the heck does sleep affect my appetite? Because I have a pretty big appetite. So what do you mean? How does it affect your appetite here?
Maybe some people can relate to this. If you went to college and you remember, I was the master of cramming, and it bit me in the butt when I was taking my third SAT to get into the Air Force Academy. I was trying to, and I paid a lot of money for one of those programs, SAT prep programs, Kaplan, I think it was. And I crammed the night before, and I had this. This was dating myself. I'm 55, but this is back when Jolt Cola was a thing. It was like, all the deliciousness of Coke, but 3 times the caffeine was kind of their mantra. And I was like, oh, cram, I'll get all this stuff in, review my notes, and then I'll hit a Jolt and ace this SAT. Well, the soda machine was broken. So I literally fell asleep on that third SAT, and I didn't even turn it in. So it was a lot of wasted money. But that being said, the point is, if you've done an all-nighter, if you had like a really poor night of sleep, or you were cramming for work, doing something like trying to meet a suspense, or maybe you have kids in club or league softball and you didn't get finished till 10:30 at night, and then you got to get back to the hotel room. I'm just sharing the stories, the real world stories I hear from my clients all the time, and your sleep is disrupted. So the next morning, what happens, or the next day? You tend to eat like crap. And why is that? There's a reason. And when you have one poor night of sleep, it's going to raise a hormone. It's going to affect your hormone cascade. We can talk about cortisol, but I want to talk about specifically ghrelin right now. Ghrelin is our hunger hormone. So when you have a poor night of sleep, or lack of sleep, or don't sleep, your ghrelin goes up dramatically, and you also suppress leptin. Leptin's your satiety or fullness hormone, and ghrelin's like feed me now hormone. Oh. So that goes up, and appetite suppression goes down, and you want to eat more. You are going to be less satisfied when you eat, meaning you eat a normal meal that would normally satisfy you. It's not. You're going to be like, I need to eat more. So it kind of turns off that satiation switch, and then also affects dopamine, which is your motivation hormone, which can affect your desire to go exercise. And I just had a consult today that was talking about he really struggled with the motivation to exercise. And through our needs analysis discussion in my consult with him, it was revealed that his wife is a snorer. And I was like, I'm going to tease the sleep divorce stuff, but I kind of talked him through that process. And in the end, like, he's being sleep deprived because of something outside of his control, or it's in his control, but something in the bed next to him. So that's how sleep can dramatically influence appetite. So if you're trying to rein in, if you have some weight loss goals, we can talk about cortisol too, because it kind of hand in hand. You want to jump into that, Hollie?
Yeah. So it's interesting. A couple of people in the comments were saying my husband snores, my wife snores. Really quick, do you have like some quick suggestions instead of they like stop snoring? Like, you can't go to your spouse and just like, well, I've hit my husband with a pillow before because he's snoring. But what suggestions, like realistic suggestions, would you have for them when their spouse snores?
Yeah. Well, first off, I want to point this out. And again, taking ownership, I knew I was a snorer, and that was like a stigma. Like, I did not, you don't have to reenact it. It's a
That's
stigma.
what it was
like. So I would never want to go on trips where I had to be in a hotel with anybody. Like, early in my life, in roommate situations, like, it affected my self-esteem and confidence. So if you are a snorer and you snore, I can totally relate. And I regret not doing it sooner, but it took me 9 months with the VA, but I finally did get a sleep study. And what I learned in that, a lot of people like stigmatize, if you got a CPAP, you must mean you're overweight. It's not true. I don't know. I don't consider myself overweight. But what I learned in the consult, like, there's 4 classes of airway. So the ENT doctor that did my consult and spent like 40 minutes with me was amazing. And he said, there's 4 classes of airways. Basically, the structure and physiology of your throat, if you can see my hands. A class 1 airway, if like you're looking down Hollie's throat, like if she opened her mouth really wide, thank you. Like, a class 1 airway is really, nice. It's big. Class 2 is there. Class 3, and he had like, a picture of this. And class 4 is like this. He said, you have a class 4 airway. So if you can see that, like, as soon as my throat muscles relax, they close off and they start flapping. That's what causes the snoring. And then also can increase the likelihood of sleep apnea. And apnea is when for a second or 3 seconds or until you wake up, you have no airflow into your lungs, and without oxygen, you die very quickly. So you're constantly getting disrupted sleep, not just for yourself, but also for your partner. So to my benefit, doing a sleep study after the consultation, I was determined, like, I qualified for a CPAP, continuous pressure. Mine's adjustable pressure. It's amazing. Like all this, like I don't know how many clients I say, oh, I have a CPAP. I don't use it. Compliance is an issue. This is where the ownership comes in. Like I'm like, and Holly can say yes or no here, but when you have a mask over your mouth, you can't hear the snoring anyway. But I know because that pressure keeps that airway open, I'm not snoring as much or at all.
I literally am like, he doesn't snore anymore. Like he doesn't. I don't know if you snore. I don't hear it.
Yeah. So I went from 3 to 5 wake ups a night to go to the bathroom to 2 using the CPAP, and my sleep scores went up. And then we're going to talk about a sleep supplement that now I haven't slept through the night as long as I can remember. Now with the CPAP, the hacks that we'll talk about at the end, and then the sleep supplement that Holly and I are now partnered with, I can sleep through the night. And that's such a game changer. I do need to work on the quantity. I got to get my 8-hour opportunity, because the latter part of the sleep window is where you get more REM. But the sleep supplement has amplified my REM sleep earlier in the night. So I'm actually hitting my REM numbers too. So we'll dive into that towards the end. But just, if nothing else from this, like take ownership, like don't just take sleep for granted and say, oh, it's just sleep. I know a lot of people do struggle with the stress, anxiety, and we'll talk about those things as we go through. And I know there's a lot of good questions I'm seeing popping up already.
Okay,
but if you can do nothing else, like just understand. At some point tonight, we're going to talk about how you can hack your sleep, create a sleep environment, create a sleep routine, and that's just going to, without doing anything else, going to see where you're at. You got to track it, and I'll go over the fitness trackers again, or the sleep trackers, but figure out where you're at. And then, if you do snore, get a sleep study. Just don't even hesitate, because 80% of the people that have sleep apnea are undiagnosed. That's
that's a big number.
80% of us out there, and I was one of them until February of this year.
Well, let's talk about, so 80%, that's a big number. Why don't we talk about really quick about cortisol and what it does for memory and cognitive function? Because I can't tell you how many times, Matt, I've heard people say, well, I just take NyQuil to go to bed, or I drink a lot of alcohol to go to sleep, even though that actually doesn't give you good sleep. And they're waking up groggy. So they get nervous about taking things, even though they're taking like things that knock them out. Well, I don't want to take something, because then if the kids are, if I need to wake up in the middle of the night, guys, there's options out there where you're not, drinking NyQuil at night or drinking a bottle of wine to go to sleep. So can you talk a little bit about cortisol and what that does when you're not sleeping?
So whether it's quantity or quality or both, cortisol is like our fight or flight hormone. It's essential to life. When you get inflammation, your doctor prescribes you cortisone, which is the drug equivalent. And I always caution my client. I don't caution them. The doctor prescribes cortisone. And I just have a client that Holly just met this weekend that was prescribed cortisone in one of the many forms. And I always just caution them, usually it's going to cause weight gain because it will affect appetite. So when you get just one poor night of sleep, your cortisol can rise 30 to 40%. So it's our fight or flight hormone. It's designed, like if the saber-toothed tiger is attacking you, or unfortunately, like you get cut off when you're driving to work and you get that, hopefully you don't get road rage, but let's admit it. And you're just like, like that little bit that's a fight or flight response. Or you get, your boss says, hey, I need this now, or you didn't do this, you get that little bit of jolt. So cortisol, when it's out of rhythm due to sleep, it's supposed to go up in the morning to give you energy and then go down at night so you can sleep. But cortisol is a fight or flight hormone that releases glycogen stores, which raise your blood sugar to give you energy to run away from the saber-toothed tiger. The problem with cortisol when you're not running away from the saber-toothed tiger or saber-tooth. That was like,
well, now it's kind of like cyber tiger.
Saber-tooth. Let's create a saber-toothed tiger.
Saber-toothed tiger. That makes sense in this world.
It's a new AI virtual reality creature I'm going to create, the saber-toothed tiger. That's going to attack you on your computer. But when you don't expend that energy, then I teach in my nutrition, managing insulin. When insulin goes up, we store fat. So what's happening with poor night of sleep, cortisol goes up and dysregulates your insulin and affects appetite and a bunch of other things. Cortisol, and this is just a good way to really think about cortisol, is anabolic or building to fat tissue or adipose tissue, and it's catabolic to muscle tissue. So if you're chronically dealing with something that is affecting your sleep, whether that's you not going to bed in time and just having a shitty nighttime routine, you're on your social media or you're watching Netflix until 2 a.m., that's on you. That's where the ownership comes in. But if it's your partner or stress, anxiety, we have to acknowledge that. That's where awareness comes in. And then you got to take ownership that you're aware of that. Like, what can you do about it? Just be wary that, besides the other things we've already talked about, if you are dealing with extra fat tissue, adipose tissue, which is 70% of Americans right now and growing, then improving your sleep will likely help on that front by affecting appetite we already talked about, and then also not spiking your insulin with that fight or flight response. So without doing anything else, improving your sleep, if I can't motivate you any other way, will likely improve body composition.
Wow.
Pause.
That's crazy. Like if you and you're going to feel better, right? You're going to be nicer to everyone if you can sleep. So there's several people in here that, I'm in denial. John needs some help here. He's like, I've snored for years. I stopped. Just stopping the day and getting into bed is a struggle. You know what? There are things out there. We're going to talk about a little bit later, some things that'll help you relax before you go to bed, where you don't have to take the NyQuil, right? And help you get restorative sleep and get into deep REM sleep faster. So stay tuned, John. Don't worry. We've got a solution for you. So one of the things you talked about is how it really affects your marriage and relationships, right? Let's talk about that a little bit, because I'm nearly perfect. So it's like, I'm very easy to live with. Boom, boom. How does it really affect relationships? Do you find that not sleeping, having the snoring, can you explain a little bit about what you said about divorcing sleep, sleeping divorce, marriage? But tell us a little bit about what you were talking about there.
And like I said, that could be from your spousal partners or from your pet partners. But let's back up a little bit and talk about a sleep cycle. Okay. In an ideal scenario, we go throughout the day, and I know most of us drink some form of caffeine in the morning. I'm not drinking coffee right now. It's water, but it's in a coffee cup. Caffeine suppresses adenosine, and adenosine is as it builds throughout the day, that creates what we call sleep pressure. Sleep pressure is more and more pressure to sleep. So caffeine blocks those same receptor sites that adenosine acts on. So it prevents adenosine from signaling that you're sleepy. And that's how caffeine works, in case you were wondering. But in a normal scenario, most people, unless you're really caffeine sensitive, you can get away with 200 to 300 milligrams of caffeine early in the day. But the half-life of caffeine is, I think it's 8 to 10 hours, which means there's still half of it in your system after that. So you just have to monitor your alertness factor related to caffeine. But as we go through a normal day, sleep pressure rises, and assuming you're not doing anything to interrupt that as you get closer to your natural bedtime. Here's the deal. Different people, God designed us in different ways. We have different biology. So Hollie maybe
I know what he's going to say. I'm laughing.
9 o'clock at night, whereas Matt likes to go to bed at 11 or 12 o'clock at night. So if you're on different circadian rhythms by biology, and God did that because of, think about when we were living in caves, if you had people that all went to bed at the same time, there'd be 8 hours where you're unprotected. So some people go to bed earlier, some people will stay awake, longer and get up later, and the other people get up early. So it works out where, like, if you look at the night owls, which is true, or the early, the morning larks, and then the people in between. I'm an in-betweener. I used to think I was a night owl, but I think I'm an in-betweener. Basically, you only have 3 hours of exposure to the saber-toothed tiger in those old cave-dwelling.
Or the saber-toothed tiger. Now, let us know in the chat if you are a night owl, if you are a morning person, is that what it'd be called? Or if you're an in-betweener.
Morning lark or night owl are the kind of the general two. But there's also a third category. So those aren't just cliches. Those are real. Like, they did a study where they put people in a cave where there was no outside stimulus, no light, no whatever. And then they measured when they naturally fell asleep and woke up. And people are different circadian rhythms. So that's just something to acknowledge. If you're trying to counter that, like, I am a night owl and I'm going to try to wake up at 5 a.m. to go a 5:30 a.m. workout, you're not going to be successful. So you need to go with your rhythm, and it's important to be aware of that. That being said, going back to your original question, talking about bed partners, spouses in most scenarios,
guys,
or dogs on cue. What the hell is that?
Fighting
over the bone?
You never know. They're like kids. It's like I got multiple kids in the house. Okay, keep going. If everyone's not awake, they're awake now.
Yeah, dogs fighting. 2 male dogs.
Cue the dog.
Anyway, so what Matthew talks about, and he talks about a little bit in the TED Talk, and he himself, he's in his 40s, younger guy. I was telling one of my clients today, I was in his 70s, like, it's weird saying younger guy for people that are in their 40s now, because I feel like I'm still in my 40s, but I'm not. But it's really from his research that he came up with this term, sleep divorce. It may be something you consider. Whether that's with your dog, which can be hard. I know a lot of people have to have their dogs or cats in the room. This is where sleep track is important. If that dog or cat is waking you up 3 to 4 times a night and interrupting the natural 90-minute sleep cycle, you're taking years off your life. Is it really that important that your dog sleeps in bed with you? You got to ask yourself that question. Are you going to leave your spouse, a widow, 5 years earlier because the dog's sleeping with you? Think about that. Ask the big questions. Don't just go through life being cavalier and not thinking through these things. So that being said, let's talk about sleep partners. And he talked about this thing called the sleep divorce. If he called 2 categories, movers and snorers. If you have a spouse that is a mover, constantly shifting and moving around in bed, that is one consideration, or somebody that snores. So in my marriage, like, that was a consideration. And to my wife's credit, like, I go to bed later, so a lot of times she would be asleep, and we use fans and noise machines and all the things. But I wish I had done this 10 years ago or longer. But it's just important to understand that if both people's sleep is getting disrupted, you're both going to be in a worse mood for hormonal reasons, not because you're just a bad person. It's just physiology and biochemistry. You're creating an environment where your marriage is going to be tougher and more stressful. So he makes the compelling argument that you have a nighttime routine where you go to bed or you say goodnight at a certain time. And if your wife's going to bed early, or your husband, you go lie in bed with him for a little bit and So it creates that intimacy, and then you go to separate beds, get quality good night of sleep, and then you have a morning routine where you reunite. He said, you're asleep. It's not like you're missing out on each other's company, but you're improving your quality and quantity of sleep, and thus improving your mood, and thus likely improving your relationship and your marriage. So sleep divorce equals better marriage or relationship.
And if you guys missed the beginning, we talked about how sleep will act, not sleeping actually takes years off of your life. This isn't just, oh, you'll feel better. Guys, you not sleeping is killing you. I'm just going to be very straightforward here. You may like us, not like us after this, but taking ownership of your life, like this is you have one life to live. This is it. You got one, right? Like, do you want to live it being groggy, delirious, mad at your spouse all the time, not sleeping, taking years off your life? This is a chance for you to really dig deep and look at where you're at, notice, and what is not working, right? What's not working in your life and what could be working. So I do want to dive into some tips for better sleep. We do have some supplements that we use that I always said, oh, I sleep fine. And then I started taking these particular supplements, which is great because it's like there's like 4 different supplements that I used to take and they're combined all in one. And I'm telling you, literally, I used to want to sleep 10 hours and I'd still wake up tired. I'm to a point where I'm literally waking up before my alarm goes off. I'm dreaming every single night and I'm actually awake. Like I don't even nap during the day anymore. And I'm a napper. Like I love sleep. I really think it's because I wasn't sleeping. Like I wasn't actually sleeping. I was just laying in bed, So could you give us some tips as we kind of wrap things up, in a few minutes? No, let's see how much longer we have. As we wrap things up, can you give us some tips on some things you can do to have better sleep?
I would absolutely love to. And that's where we can really do some simple things to promote better sleep. But just real quick, I want to address Lisa's comment and question. And this goes, she's asking like she called it a nightmare owl, but I assume she means a night owl wakes him. So he's complaining, her husband, she's asking if she's taking years off his life. So in that scenario, if you're a night owl and he's going to bed, like you go to bed at 12 and he goes to bed at 9 or 10 or whatever, what the sleep divorce is saying is that when he or she is ready to go to bed, you kind of at least go in the bedroom with them, kiss them good night, have a great night of sleep. You have whatever routine works for you. You can even lay in bed with them for a little bit and then exit the bed. So you're not ready for sleep. You should not be in bed. We want to create the association that bed equals sleep. So this also affects, when you're tossing and turning and for whatever reason you can't fall asleep. The advice from the smartest guy related to sleep, again, that's not coming from me, it's coming from the expert. He says, get out of bed, read, do something else until you get tired and then go back to bed. Because if you don't, your subconscious mind can start associating bed with wakefulness or stress or anxiety. I can't fall asleep. So you want to dissociate that. So that's just a quick tip. And just to Lisa, if you're still listening, like you're not taking years off your husband's life, but I would say consider what I talked about, the sleep divorce, where you have that evening routine, then you go do your night owl stuff, and then you go to bed. Hopefully, though, you're able to sleep your at least 6 hours, but preferably 8. But if you're staying up late and you have to get up at 6 a.m. and you're going to bed at 12, that's this guy, then you need to like reverse engineer your nighttime routine. And that is a good segue into your question, Holly, about tips, tricks, hacks, whatever you want to call them for quality sleep. Are we ready for that?
Yeah. So one question may be able to answer this is, does it matter what time you eat dinner to go to sleep?
Great question. That's actually one of the tips from Matthew Walker and other experts. This is tip number 3. Stop eating 3 hours before bed. Caveat being, if you eat 3 hours before bed and you are like physically hungry, and this gets into the whole thing of nutrition, like when you eat high glycemic carbohydrates, if you do that without protein and vegetables, simple strategy I teach, eat protein and vegetables before your carbs or your treats or your desserts, it's going to dramatically affect the blood sugar response and your appetite afterwards. But let's just say you ate 3 hours before bed and you're pretty hungry. You don't want to be visibly or physically hungry before bed. So that might be an opportunity. Like for me, it's literally a half cup of cottage cheese with a little olive oil that may gross you out.
It actually tastes good.
It's high protein, snack that I can have. Or like last night I had a nut butter with like just a teaspoon with a little bit of raw honey, just to take the edge off and give your body a little bit of nutrition before bed. So, but you just don't want to have a big meal. You do not want to go to bed with a full stomach. That's the worst. And when we went to Boston, Holly, and we went to that Italian meal.
Oh, yes.
I was miserable until about 3:40 and like 3:30 a.m. in the morning. It was the worst decision I ever made. And awareness, like this is from the book, The Hunger Habit, like I drilled that into my brain. Like I'm never going to do that again. So it's creating that aversion to something that created a bad experience.
And Jackie, there's a tip for you because you like sweets before bed. I like something sweet. So what you could do is do peanut butter with a little bit of honey. So don't eat too much sweets before bed.
Right. Or dark chocolate, 2 squares of 70%. Put a little smear of chocolate or peanut butter on both of them, and do that, or a little bit of honey on either one or both of them. And that's a great little treat that doesn't affect blood sugar and will help you sleep.
So what are some tips? You said number 3. So what's number 1 and number 2?
Number 1 is establishing regularity, meaning a bedtime routine that you have a target bedtime. You can set an alarm, like Holly has 27 alarms on her phone that dictate her life. You could have a nighttime alarm that goes off at 9:30 or 10 that says, okay, start that nighttime routine. Where that, I like to teach my clients a set time to brush your teeth, which turns off the desire to eat anything after that, and it starts that nighttime routine. But you want to have a time you go to bed and a time you wake up as regular as possible, even the weekends. I do not do that well on Sundays, but that's regularity is the first that creates a sleep anchor, and then it creates that circadian rhythm. And obviously you want it to try, if your career and your job and everything else, your kids, allow that to mirror your natural circadian rhythm. Great. If it doesn't, just if you're a night owl and you have to force yourself to go to bed at 10 so you can wake up at 5 a.m. because your kids have to be fed at 6, it's the best, you're making the best of that scenario. So that's tip number 1. So this one's big, and this is one of my hacks that was profound in my own sleep hacking, is lowering your core temperature. So as Holly knows, I have a chili pad system. There's 8 Sleep, BedJet, chili pad. Those are just some of the commercial products. But it's basically a water-cooled pad that goes under my bed sheet, and I turn it on, an hour before I go to bed, and you can set it to whatever temperature I set as cold as possible, which is 55 degrees. So that helps bring my core temperature down. You can take cold showers. You can do cold plunge. Or like you can, I don't want to get into some of the other weird stuff because you're not going to remember it anyway. But cool, dark environment. So, if you're one of those situations where this is very typical where the husband, it's not always the case. I have a couple that the wife is the one that's burning up and the husband's the one that's chilly, but usually it's the other way around. But in that scenario, like my wife, Holly, likes cold, so I'm fortunate. So we keep our bedroom temperature at about 68 degrees. 65 to 68 is ideal for sleep. Now, a lot of people are going to be like, hell no, I'm not going to pay the money in my electrical bill.
I'm putting it in the chat, 65 to 68 degrees.
Yeah, it's worth the money. But a lot of times it's like, I would freeze to death. Well, I would suggest like one of you, usually it's one loves it, one hates it. Like the one that hates it, put some extra covers on your bed, and you both will still get better sleep because actual weighted blankets and extra weight on top of you creates that same effect that when you're in the womb, when you have pressure on your body, it creates a security and helps you sleep better. So, cold, dark environment. And what does that mean? It means no visible clock lights. So, one of the things I do probably once or twice a week is I turn Hollie's clock face down. And then, so the room's completely dark. Because you'll be surprised. It doesn't seem like much when you go to sleep, but you wake up at 2 a.m. It's like this beacon of light that can, trigger some wakefulness. So that's another rule. The lower the core temperature, stop eating 3 hours before bed. 4, exercise in general, not right before bed, but we talked about sleep pressure earlier. When you incorporate a regular routine of exercise, it's going to amplify that sleep pressure effect and improve the quality of your sleep because your body's going to need, by necessity, to get you into deep sleep to repair the damage. And I'm talking, more strength training and cross training than necessarily just low intensity cardio training has more of a pronounced effect. But exercise can definitely improve your sleep quality. And
how far in advance should you exercise before you go to bed? Because one of the questions in here is, can you work out before bed?
He said immediate, but I would say 3 hours before bed, just like not eating, would be a good rule of thumb. So if you're going to bed at 10 and you exercise at 6 or 7, you're cool there. And I would chase that with if you have access to a sauna and then a cool shower, that would be a really awesome nighttime routine.
Oh, someone had asked about the sauna. So if you go in the sauna, should you go in the cold shower after?
It'd be a good idea to rinse off the sweat with the cool water, but the actual vascular dilation of a sauna, or one of the hacks that Matthew Walker talked about, if you're one of those people that gets cold at night, he said before you go to bed, put on wool socks and mittens, get your feet hot and your hands hot, and then take them off before you go to bed, and it'll enhance that core temperature cooling effect, and your feet will still be hot so you don't feel cold feet syndrome. But related to the sauna, like the expert guidance, and this is a whole nother topic on cold plunging, and the expert
we'll have to do another one of those if you guys want to deep dive on like biohacking. That'd be fun.
But the rule would be always finish cold, like sauna, cool water, rinse off, bed. But even doing the sauna where you're, like I said, the surface temperature of your skin increases to kind of cool off the heat of the sauna. Then you rinse off, you're going to cool down faster core temperature wise because your body has, as long as you're not in the sauna for a long time, to raise core temperature up 2 to 3 degrees. That's what exercise does. So you need some time between exercise and bed so your core temperature comes back down to normal.
Okay, what's number 4?
4 was exercise.
Oh, what's number 5?
So 5, and this is where it gets a little bit more individual. These are like optional suggestions. This is where mood, mindset, relaxation, meditation, finding something that works for you. Everybody's a little different, like the Calm app, and there's you have a smartphone, unless
you're not very smart.
Like I say, unless you live on a remote island without electricity, most people have a smartphone. There's a bunch of apps, Mindspace, Headspace, Calm. Those are just some ideas, but just Google it, like a nighttime routine or a journaling exercise where you just kind of sit down. And this is one works really good for those nighttime anxiety people where your brain just going, worried about this and that, and I got to finish this tomorrow and that, and I'm going to forget everything. This one works really good. Write it down, like just the process of writing it down so you won't forget it, but you write it down. It basically liberates the anxiety of that. but always finish with 3 things you're grateful for. So I don't, and that's called journaling. But you can simplify it, and this is what I do when I lie in bed. The first thing I do after I put on my sleep app and turn it on, before I go into my sleep position's another thing. I always just reflect on the day and some of the things that went well, some things that didn't well, what I need to do tomorrow, and then I always think about 3 things I'm grateful for before I go to bed. And that attitude of gratitude, or that gratitude practice, I always suggest doing it in the morning and the evening, because gratitude lowers cortisol in the morning, but it'll literally create a mindset better suited for sleep. So whether you write it down or just go through it, you got to do it though. You got to do some reps and get into where it's a habit. So the way I usually say from the book Atomic Habits, you got to create at least one habit that you drill in for a week and get that established. Then he calls it habit stacking. Then you add the second one. So it might be brushing your teeth at 9:30 p.m. Get that done for a week. And then the next week, say, okay, take a cold shower, or I'm in bed at 10, like whatever the next thing is. Always, Holly, maybe, I don't know if you even noticed this, but always first thing I do when I come home, if it's late, especially, but by 9 o'clock, I turn the air down to 69, down from 73 that it's hovering at during the day. To get that rolling, I turn on my chili pad system to get that cooling. So that's, 9 o'clock on average. That's part of my nighttime routine. So that's setting up the environment for my sleep. And I think that was relaxing body movements. That's another one. Just not exercise, but I wouldn't call it yoga either. Maybe Tai Chi. Okay. Just light stretching, just easy stuff. We're just kind of also possibly doing some gratitude while you do it for 1 to 3 minutes. That can promote a little relaxation. A little bit more advanced would be, and you could go on YouTube and find a routine where you're lying in bed and you just kind of visualize sunlight shining on your feet and moving up your body to your lower legs, your calves, and then your knees. And as that light is shining on those areas, the muscles are completely relaxing. The tension is going out. And you would do that all the way up to your head. And normally by the time you get to the head, you're like,
no, even thinking about it, I'm
tired. But one of the things that also works, if you're one of the people like me, where your brain tends to be always thinking about the next business idea or whatever, reading nonfiction with an incandescent light can quiet the mind. And usually within 10 to 15 minutes, that sleep pressure builds and you're ready to go night-night. So those are just some quick and easy ways that we can create a sleep routine, but you got to do something. And
well, in the last 5 minutes, so we have 5 minutes left. Do you want to talk a little bit? Let's say you're doing all the things, or you want something that's going to act fast. Let's share a little bit about what we have found.
Quick things.
Too quick. Okay.
2 biggies.
I'm the time Nazi.
5 minutes. Talked about 12 hours before bedtime, ideally. We didn't talk about alcohol. So alcohol causes fragmented sleep. Real quick, the rule of thumb is women can get away with about 1 drink without dramatically affecting your sleep quality, and men 1.5 to 2. But when you drink alcohol, more than a drink is a good rule of thumb, is going to fragment your sleep, or basically be like the snoring partner or the pets in your bed or Chinese water torture that's dripping on your head. That's why Chinese water torture drives people literally insane within 3 days, because it's just a little drop of water that prevents them from getting into deep sleep. And that's what alcohol does. So it's called non-naturalistic sleep, where you're asleep, but you're not getting all the benefits. So that's just a caution with alcohol to be wary of. And that's not to go into the effects of weight loss that I educate my clients on. And then the big obvious one that I totally neglected in that sleep routine, when you brush your teeth or whatever, for 90 minutes before your scheduled bedtime, you should be off of any kind of electronics, any kind of stimulation, any kind of blue light emitting devices, phones, computers, tablets, TVs. Those of you, and I'm not trying to call you out, that have TVs in your room. I'm dealing with a client, husband and wife situation where one likes to have the TV on and one does not, wants that cold, dark environment. It's even if I fall asleep when I'm watching the TV, it helps me. So even though you're asleep, it's not naturalistic sleep. Your brain is still microprocessing whatever that TV is talking about, the sounds, the dialogue, the light, everything. So you're not really asleep. So kill the TV. I like my wife when we got married. That was like one of her non-negotiables. Like, we'll never have a TV in the bedroom.
We'll never have a TV in the room.
So, and we haven't. And on a lieutenant salary, I couldn't afford a second TV anyway. When I, in my earlier years, so I never really had a TV in the bedroom anyway, except for hotel rooms. So that's just another quick tip that I wanted to cover. So that being said, you want to dive into?
Yeah, we got 3 minutes. So I want to dive into a little bit about something that we have found that literally has drastically changed my sleep and so many other people that have tried the Sync supplement before. So Matt, can you tell us a little bit about Sync, what's in it, why you chose to bring this into the gym and our clients? Because that was a big decision, because you don't just decide to bring anything into our gym. You do extensive research before we do. So share a little bit about that before we head off.
Yeah. So if you want, if you struggle with a lot of things that we already talked about, first of all, let's talk about the sleep drugs, Ambien and Lunesta. Like, those will get you unconscious, but they are not naturalistic sleep. So I'm saying naturalistic sleep, that's Matthew Walker's term. If you haven't seen, if you're just joining us, he's the world's leading sleep expert. And he has the Sleep Institute, Cal Berkeley, and does a lot of the most compelling research on sleep. So they've studied it. It's not quality sleep. Yeah, you'll be unconscious. So my clients that have really bad sleep issues, the better way is a slow dose of trazodone and gabapentin. So if you want to go the prescription route, but that's a very small percentage of the population. You want to do that as a last resort. But Ambien and Lunesta are not something you want to do chronically or for a long time. And melatonin, as I teased in the beginning, is not a good sleep supplement. Where it is effective is for jet lag situations, when you're changing time zones or coming back from a trip to Europe. Melatonin can help reset your circadian rhythm. Just be aware that I think it was 90% or 89% of the supplements tested were 80% off of the melatonin content of what was reported on the label. So it's a crapshoot. But the takeaway is melatonin is not a good sleep supplement. And more is not better. Melatonin. But what is a good sleep supplement or sleep supplements? And this is where, as Holly knows, I was doing some research last night, because I like to be evidence-based. And I already knew that GABA was good for sleep and magnesium were good for sleep. And that is two of the ingredients in this product called Sync. We actually are affiliates for, and we would love for you to try it, because you're going to be a happy camper. And I was upset last night because we had to do some appraisal photos and Holly had moved everything. And I found the tub, but
I found it.
The tub was empty.
It's an office. You can have one tonight.
I was like, crap. I was up till 11.
Sorry.
Just kind of looking through
How
the
cute those little packages are.
Yeah. So they kind of taste like, they have the consistency of honey, and they're just a delivery mechanism for.
I feel like it's a treat. So those that like sweets before bed, I feel like this is something that's like that little sweet before bed. My mouth's watering. It tastes so good. So good. And you just open it. That's it. I won't take it out because I'll fall asleep early.
Yeah, don't do that. But just write on the ingredients label, which you can find on the website. Nothing to hide here. the first thing that I'm going to point out is the magnesium. So magnesium glycinate, magnesium L-threonate. Those have been supplements I've been recommending to my clients for sleep for a long time, and I've been taking personally. So L-threonate crosses the blood barrier.
Yeah.
Glycinate relaxes the muscles and takes out some of the stress and the tension in the body. So that right off the bat addresses that. And then working further down the ingredients list, their rejuvenation blend. This is the proprietary blend. And a lot of companies don't reveal that, so somebody can't quickly knock them off. And that's just why they do it. I understand. So 5.5 grams of the product is this proprietary blend. Collagen peptides are one. Like, what's up with collagen? So collagen is very anti-inflammatory for the brain, and that's why it's in this. Inflammation at night in the brain is something we didn't get into, but deep sleep is when the body, the brain cells, you got glial cells and you got neurons. The glial cells are the bigger cells, and glial cells, when you're in slow wave deep sleep, assuming you're getting it for all the things we already talked about, literally contract 50 to 60%. And when all those cells shrink during deep sleep, the cerebrospinal fluid in the brain gets to flush all the metabolic waste that the brain produces. So if you're not getting your deep sleep, you're not clearing the inflammation in the brain and all that metabolic waste. So the collagen peptides are going to help with that. And then the next ingredient going down the list is GABA. And GABA is a anti-excitability neurotransmitter. So if you have midnight anxiety or restlessness, or your brain's just going, whoo, can't turn it off, GABA is kind of the antidote for that. And it's going to lower and decrease the stress response. By the stress response, like if you're stressed out, going to bring it down a notch or a big notch. And then it also inhibits brain activity so you can quiet the mind and shut it down for the nighttime reboot. So that's the GABA. I talked about the magnesium. And then the other ingredients are CBD and CBN. So this is where we get into the debate about cannabis, like THC. CBD and CBN are not to be confused with THC. So they're all cannabinoids made from the hemp plant or the marijuana plant. Very different. So what's really cool, which I was actually excited to find last night, I was digging. It actually wasn't that hard to find because there's a lot of studies where they're really digging into CBD and CBN as sleep promoting, non-addictive, non-problematic, non-lunesta ambient, naturalistic sleep supplements. And the early data show, and even him and his, I dug into all of like podcasts. I was just digging on if he talked about it at all. And he said the early data on CBD is promising. That was his word. You fall asleep faster without the negative impact on REM like THC. So THC will put you to sleep. That's the stuff that's in marijuana. But you lose your REM sleep. So that's not good. You also have fewer dependency issues. And it also might reduce the severity of sleep apnea. And if you're dealing with anybody that has PTSD, and it does not just have to be somebody in the military, that could come from any trauma that you experience. I've had 2 clients in my life that literally, and I don't mean to be negative, but just witnessed her mom getting murdered in front of her. That's going to cause PTSD for life unless you do something about it. So the point being that it helps in early studies reduce PTSD related sleep problems and lowers nightmares. So if you suffer from nightmares, so that's pretty promising study on CBD. And there's like currently a bunch of studies going on because of that early research. Now we get into, and then also Peter Attia, the one I pointed out, the doctor of Outlive. He's my guru mentor. If you read any book on health, this is the one. I've listened to over 2,000 hours of his podcast. I'm in his mentorship program. He even said that his anecdotal evidence with his patient population is that it especially works for people with existing sleep issues. So it also may improve sleep with people that suffer from chronic pain. So that's all the data on CBD. Very promising. And then CBN has been studied. That's cannabinol. Has been shown in studies to lower the sleep disturbance rate, which means less wake ups. And that was what I was dealing with my sleep apnea and getting up to use the bathroom. So, and there was a double blind placebo controlled study, which is the gold standard in clinical research, that demonstrated the CBN killed the placebo, significant benefit over the placebo in less wake ups at night. So that's kind of the gold standard of research. So CBN, CBD, and so personally, as Hollie, I share with her, I track my sleep, as Hollie talked about in the beginning. And what I've seen, the difference since we started using this product and why I was so upset last night when I couldn't find it, like, where did she put it? Is that my REM sleep. So when you don't get that 8 hours of sleep, normal sleep cycle, 7 to 8 hours, the deep sleep hits more front loaded and the REM sleep comes more back loaded towards the 5 to 8 hours of night. So I was always short on REM, but now with Sync, my REM is crushing, and I'm hitting my REM numbers and I'm hitting my deep sleep numbers with all the other things I'm doing. And so I'm getting mid 80 sleep score even in 5.5 to 6 hours. And what was the one I showed you? I was like horrific when I stayed up late preparing for a meeting till 2:30 in the morning. And I only had like a 4.5 hours of sleep, but I hit a 79 sleep score. I hit my Sync like 30 minutes when I got home. I popped that, and then I was just getting ready for the next day, and then I fell asleep, and I scored a 79, which is 80 plus is good. And so that was amazing.
And that's when you didn't have a lot of quantity, but your quality was amazing. So if you guys are just tuning in, we're talking about an amazing magical product here that if you are even remotely, if you want any sort of sleep, everyone in this chat who's commented, I'm not sleeping, I'm waking up, I have sleep apnea, all these different things, we have a magic gel for you, right? So there's something here that can actually help you. So if you really do want the sleep that you're desiring, get back to the person in this group, or if you're on Matt and I's page, message us, or we're going to message you. Because here's the deal. Every single person should be sleeping. You need your sleep. It's going to affect your life in general, your life as a whole. It's going to affect your relationships with your spouse, with your kids. You know, it's going to affect everything that you're in your life. So why are you sitting back and not doing something about it? We have a chance for you to do something about it. So we are doing a giveaway. So anyone who commented here during the live, we're going to be doing a putting you in a bowl, and we're going to be giving away a 5-day trial for this right here. But please get back to the person that invited you to this group. If you've missed the very beginning, go back. A lot of great information about sleep. But honestly, just try this. The only thing you have to lose is not sleeping, right? So give it a try. They even do a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's how much this company believes in what they're doing. We've got CBD, we got CBN, we've got magnesium, we have GABA, we have collagen, everything that you need to give your body a good night's sleep, repair your brain and your body, lower inflammation. What's great about this is there's COA sheets. If you're just like nervous about testing hot because you've never done anything CBD, this is different than THC. This is not THC. There's no THC in this. We can show you. It's been third-party tested. This is the real freaking deal. When we got our hands on this, I was like, Matt, this is going to save a lot of people, their marriages, their brains, their relationship with their kids. Why not? If you're not buying this, I want you to seriously ask yourself, why am I not taking control of my sleep? Why am I not wanting to better my health in my life? Right? Take ownership and realize what's not working, because we have something that is. So get back with a person. Anyone here that is tuning in, make sure you say hello, because if you comment on here, we're putting you in a drawing. Is there anything else you want to tie up with Mr. O'Brien before we head off?
And I would say anybody that's watching on our channels, if you want us to follow up with you to either do a 5-day experience or just let us send you our link to buy a 30-day supply or a tub of this. You don't have to take this every night. That's another important consideration. But I always recommend like 4 to 5 nights a week when you know you really want to get a good night's sleep. That's just one way you can kind of spread it out over time. But, put something in the chat. What do you want them to put, Holly?
I want you to put sync.
S-Y,
in
like
sync.
NSYNC.
Sync.
Group NSYNC. Get NSYNC.
Put that in the chat, but I definitely am going to go through all the comments, put you guys in a drawing. You can win a 5-day. Honestly, just do the 30-day. There's really no reason for you not to, because there is a 30-day money back guarantee. So anyone on here who has trouble with sleep, you joined this for a reason. I want to give you a, what do you call that? A fast track, or there's the word I'm looking for.
A biohack, a shortcut.
Shortcut. That's what it is. See, thank you for understanding my brain. This is the shortcut, guys, shortcut to getting good sleep. So if you had a question and we did not answer it, yes, Lena, you need this. Oh my gosh. Also, Christine on here. Go ahead and put sync in the chat. The person that invited you to this group will get back with you and have you try the sync product. You are not going to lose out on anything but a bad night sleep. So thank you guys for tuning in. We went over a little bit longer, but this was great information. Share this with a friend, invite them into the group. Let us know what you want to learn more about, because we have more stuff coming up with What the Health Show. We can do some biohacking with you and explain a little more about the other products that Frequence has to offer, because this is not just a line that has sleep. It has so many other things like nootropics and mushrooms and things that really wake up your brain during the day and help you sleep at night. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Mr. O'Brien, for all the research you've done. I love how you love helping people.
Sleep, everybody. Sleep and exercise. Big 2. If you're not, don't worry about what supplements you're taking if you're not focusing on those 2 things first.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Say bye-bye. We'll see you next time on What the Health Show. And don't forget to follow us. And we got more coming up. So we will see you guys later. Mwah. Happy Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. Martini Friday. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.